After 10 long years in a so-called wellness center, also known as the local psychiatric asylum, he was finally welcomed back to the prestigious Vance family. But the moment he stepped through the door, Arthur Vance, the family's precious adopted golden boy, practically sprinted over just to start some drama. He made sure to raise his voice so the entire crowd of servants could hear. "Brother, I heard that when you were little, you tried to roast our father alive. Is that why they sent you to the asylum? Is it true?" The Vance family servants, most of them new hires from the last decade, knew nothing of the old gossip. Hearing Arthur's words, their jaws practically hit the floor. One servant whispered, "The eldest young master looks so elegant and refined. He doesn't look like an arsonist at all." But his immediate response left the entire room stunned. That's correct. Arthur secretly celebrated inside, though his face twisted into a mask of pure terror. "But Dad is so good to you. Why would you want to end his subscription to life?" "Because he hit me." Grandma Vance, the family's dowager, immediately cut in, her voice harsh and demanding. "Do you regret it, boys?" He looked back at her, genuinely confused. "Regret what?" "Regret that you almost burned your father to a crisp." The grandma's face turned a violent shade of purple. She was about to unleash a storm of curses, but he calmly replied, his voice dripping with deep, genuine regret. "At that time, I was young and lacked experience. I really should have locked the windows or placed some heavy boulders underneath them. That way, Dad wouldn't have been able to jump out the window and escape." The entire living room plunged into a dead, suffocating silence. The servants looked at him as if he were a walking horror movie villain. Grandma Vance was so furious, her face betrayed, her voice trembling. You unrepentant monster." Seeing this, Arthur quickly rushed over to pat Grandma's back. Playing the role of the perfect peacemaker, "Grandma, don't be mad. My brother is just saying nonsense to vent his anger." But our main character interrupted him. "You are incorrect. I truly meant every word." Grandma Vance, shaking with rage, muttered, "Who knows? He might be thinking of a way to burn me next." He simply shook his head. "I've never thought about setting you on fire. I just hope you pass away peacefully and soon." That would be enough. Grandma Vance's eyes rolled into the back of her head, nearly fainting on the spot. Arthur, ever the dedicated actor, continued his good boy act. "Grandma is the most wonderful grandmother in the world. She's so forgiving. Please don't hold a grudge against him, brother. I believe once you're home longer, you will definitely love her." After his Oscar-worthy speech, he held up a limited edition Transformer toy and took a few steps forward, extending his small, welcoming hand. "I had this custom made just for you, brother. Welcome home, I hope you like it." But he didn't even glance at him. His eyes were glued to the family portrait on the wall, completely lost in thought. Getting no response, Arthur's eyes turned red as he sniffled pitifully. "Do you not like me, brother?" He finally pulled his gaze away and delivered a blunt answer. "Correct, I do not like you." Seeing that Arthur was about to burst into theatrical tears, Grandma Vance just couldn't hold back anymore. She stood up suddenly, slamming her cane against the marble floor. "Vincent, it's bad enough you don't respect your elders, but Arthur is your younger brother. He's so young, how can you be so rude to him?" But Vincent replied with absolute seriousness, "You are wrong. He is the adopted child of the Vance family." "Not my brother." The moment he spoke, the color drained from everyone's faces. The servants stared at Arthur, completely shocked. The famously pampered second young master was actually adopted. Arthur's face turned paper-white as if he'd been struck by lightning. He staggered backward. And of course, tripped over the coffee table with a dramatic, "Ouch." He and his Transformer toy hit the floor. Tears started streaming down his face like a broken pipe. "It's all my fault," he sobbed, "for years. I've lived a life of luxury here while you were stuck in the asylum, suffering and taking bitter medicine every day. It is completely understandable that you don't welcome me." But Vincent decided to correct him. "I indeed do not welcome you. However, I didn't suffer at all in the asylum, and I didn't take medicine every day. Arthur just blinked, momentarily stunned, before wailing even louder. If you don't want me as a brother, I'll move out. Right now, Vincent nodded. Okay, pack your things and leave immediately. Don't pollute my eyesight. Arthur froze. The servants froze. What was going on with this eldest young master? The second young master was obviously just acting, playing the victim. Why did he take it seriously? Grandma Vance exploded, her cane thumping like a war drum. Vincent, don't forget the condition for your return. You signed an agreement not to bully Arthur. You've already broken the rules, but Vincent cut her off. I broke nothing. I never signed that agreement. Grandma Vance snapped her head toward the family lawyer standing nervously in the corner. Lawyer Quinn, what is the meaning of this? Lawyer Quinn had a flashback to the chilling scene at the asylum when he tried to make this guy sign the papers. A shiver ran down his spine. He never wanted to mess with Vincent ever again. He cleared his throat. Madam, I found the eldest young master to be very calm, elegant, and reasonable. I deemed the agreement unnecessary, so I did not require his signature. The grandma roared, do you know how much we pay your firm every year? Is this how you work? She slammed her cane again. I order you to make Vincent sign it right now, or else, Lawyer Quinn smoothly interrupted. Madam, my office just called, an extreme emergency. I must leave immediately. Please contact my assistant for any further inquiries. With the speed of an Olympic runner, the lawyer grabbed his briefcase and vanished out the door. Useless money-grubbing coward, Grandma cursed. She turned her sharp gaze back to Vincent. Even if you didn't sign it, you are forbidden from bullying Arthur. I am not bullying him, Vincent stated calmly. He was the one who said he would move out. A man must keep his word, otherwise he is a liar, and liars must be punished. The servant's eyes went wide. Even if the second young master wasn't his real brother, how could he treat him like this? This is outrageous, Grandma screamed. You are bullying him. He offered a handshake, you ignored it. He gave you a gift, you didn't say thank you. And you pushed him to the ground. Before she could even finish her rant, Vincent took 2 steps and shoved Arthur, who a maid had just helped to his feet. He sent him sprawling, then Vincent looked at his grandmother. You said I pushed him. Now I actually did. Grandma Vance was stunned. The servants were speechless. Arthur slammed into the coffee table, sending fruit plates flying. Water glasses tumbled, and a fruit knife skittered right past his cheek. It nearly gave him a piercing. Terrified, he burst into real tears. You hate me that much? Fine, I'm leaving. Smack. Before he could even finish, Vincent slapped him clean across the face. Arthur froze, forgetting how to even cry. He just stared at him in pure bewilderment. Vincent, how dare you slap me? Vincent looked down calmly. You said I hit you, so I had to make it real. Otherwise, you would be a liar, he continued. This is the second time you've said you were leaving the Vance family. So why are you still on the floor? Hurry up. And get out. Panicking, Arthur turned to Grandma, sobbing, Grandma, I don't mind leaving, but I can't bear to be apart from you. The old woman hugged him tight, howling back. Don't be afraid, Arthur. Grandma will protect you. Vincent, you dare chase him out? Fine, I'll leave with him. Let's see how you handle that. Okay, you two can go together, he replied evenly. The old lady's eyes bulged. Her face turned crimson with rage. A second later, she shrieked like she was on fire. I am not going anywhere. This is my house. Who dares kick me out? Vincent just shook his head. No one is kicking you out. You clearly stated you were going to leave with Arthur. You must keep your word, otherwise it's a lie. A sudden wave of anxiety hit them. It washed over the old woman and the golden boy. Vincent stepped in front of them. His face was dead serious. Since you refuse to leave, I have no choice but to escort you out myself. As everyone watched in horror, our guy went to work. He hoisted Grandma Vance onto his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, then wrapped his other arm around Arthur's waist, clamping him under his armpit like a cheap baguette. And just like that, he was carrying a 70-year-old woman and a teenager. Dragging the kid, he marched straight toward the front door. He's 61 after all. Grandma is frail and Arthur is tiny. This was basically a light cardio warm-up for him. Seriously, what kind of normal person does this? The servants screamed internally. They were scrambling and tripping all over themselves, chasing after him through the grand hall. Stepping outside, he finally placed Grandma and Arthur on the ground. He casually adjusted his sleeves and announced, "No need to thank me." Then he walked to the smart lock on the front door, tinkering with it for a moment. He clapped the dust off his hands, walked back inside, and shut the heavy doors. The double doors slammed right in their faces. Outside, Grandma and Arthur stared. They stared at the closed doors, finally realizing this wasn't just a nightmare. They had actually been thrown out like yesterday's trash. One was the supreme matriarch, worshipped by everyone. The other, the pampered young master, who was treated like royalty. And here they were, tossed out on their own driveway by a complete madman. A certified lunatic, fresh from the asylum, right in front of the servants and security guards. Where was their dignity? Where on earth could they hide their faces now? Arthur hugged his grandma, crying like an abandoned puppy. "Grandma, you're over 70 and your own grandson kicked you out. I don't mind being homeless, but you're the matriarch." How could he do this to you? Grandma just looked on. Completely shell-shocked, she just sat there on the ground, weeping silently. Muttering over and over, "Mutiny. This is mutiny. He's trying to kill me." Seeing the tragic state of their masters, the servants finally snapped out of it. Butler Lewis whipped out his phone. "I am calling the police right now." Two maids with injured wrists wailed, "Butler Lewis, we're in so much pain." "Call an ambulance for us." Lewis just sighed and arranged for a driver. He sent the injured staff to a clinic, then rallied the guards who were left. They tried helping Grandma and the second young master back inside, but Arthur sniffled. "Butler Lewis, if we go in, he'll just throw us out again," and Lewis knew. He was probably right. Grandma wiped her tears and then shrieked dramatically. "Fine, we'll leave. We'll leave the Vance family this instant. Let the whole world know." Just how terrifying Vincent is, fresh out of an asylum and already. He's abusing his own grandmother and brother. Of course, this was all an act. She was just saving face, hoping someone would beg her to stay. Butler Lewis played along. "Madam, I've called the police. They will come and arrest the eldest young master. Once he's gone, no one can kick you out." But before he could even finish, a maid ran over, panicking. "Butler Lewis, it's useless, the smart lock." The eldest young master blocked the keyhole with chewing gum, and he also changed the fingerprint and passcode. "We can't get in." Lewis rushed to the door. Fingerprints rejected, passcodes invalid. The manual keyhole was indeed stuffed with gum. A stubborn, minty wad of it. Now all the servants and guards were stuck outside. They supported the old lady and young master, but nobody could open the door from the outside. Arthur collapsed on the driveway, wailing all over again. "Why is this happening? Why would he do this to Grandma?" Butler Lewis sighed heavily. He sent a guard to check the back door. Minutes later, the guard returned. Shaking his head, the back door's passcode was also changed, with no other options left. The elite Vance family and their staff stood there, shivering in the evening air. They were left waiting for the police. By sunset, neighbors were out for a walk. And this bizarre spectacle right outside the Vance mansion, it drew a crowd. People started pointing and whispering about the great Vance family. The servants ground their teeth, venting to anyone who would listen about their evil young master. And Arthur, the so-called future superstar of the city's film academy, absolutely hated being gawked at like some animal in a zoo. He hid his face in his hands and hissed, "Butler Lewis, call my parents. And my sisters, tell them to come and save Grandma." "I already did," the butler whispered. "The third miss is on her way. The master and madam can't return immediately. And the eldest and second misses are both busy with their schedules. Only their assistants answered the call. Just wait, once the police and third miss arrive. Everything will be fine." Hearing this, Arthur finally sighed with relief. He continued his devoted grandson act. I'll wait until Sister Ivan gets here. Once Grandma is safely inside, then I'll leave. Nonsense, Grandma gripped his hand. Tears welled in her eyes. Grandma will protect you. Wherever you go, I go. While everyone waited for the third miss to deliver justice, the police arrived first. And Vincent, he didn't hesitate. He opened the door for them immediately, faced with the officer's questions. He didn't bother making excuses. He simply pulled out He hands over an official psychological evaluation report with a completely deadpan face. He claims to suffer from severe depression and bipolar mania, stated perfectly seriously. Back at home, his grandmother immediately insulted his upbringing. She demanded he get kicked out, while Arthur tried to force the brotherly bond. When he refused, Arthur started bawling. They both made it clear they wanted out. So he simply escorted them right to the driveway. He then points at the servants. They were the ones calling him a psycho, glaring at him with pure contempt. They even tried to gang up on him. He was triggered, forced to defend himself. In his panic, he claims, he accidentally caused a few minor injuries. And of course, he is more than willing to cover all medical expenses. After hearing this, the police realized the situation was incredibly tricky. The doctor confirmed it, just minor tissue damage, not even a mild assault. On top of that, this was very clearly a messy family dispute. It was nowhere near the level that would justify taking him into custody. And the biggest problem, the eldest young master had just been discharged from a mental hospital. He was holding certified psychiatric papers. Dealing with him was a legal nightmare. Even if he deserved a night in a cell, the paperwork meant immediate release. On medical grounds, after a brief huddle, the officers ultimately decided not to arrest him. Instead, he got a stern warning and a lecture. He listens intently, nodding along like the perfect, obedient student. His mother always told him to listen to the police because they were good people. And he was a good son, listening to his mother. He looked like the model citizen. The most normal, polite young man you could ever meet. If the director of Greenwood Asylum saw this act, he'd probably cry tears of blood. He acted exactly this obedient when he first arrived, making everyone drop their guard. The results of that little act, way too traumatic to even talk about. Seeing how cooperative he was, the cops didn't press the issue. The passcodes were changed back, and the officers personally walked Grandma and Arthur inside. Before the police car even left, he stood there on the porch, giving a friendly wave. Perfectly normal. The moment they were gone, he strolls into the living room. His grandma was still crying, surrounded by servants trying to comfort her. Arthur spots him and shrinks back behind the old woman, completely terrified. Our main character clears his throat. He promised the officers he wouldn't throw them out. Unless, of course, they wanted to leave. So, do you guys want to leave the Vance family? Arthur flinched. He didn't dare say no, so he went for the tragic route. He'd stay by Grandma's side forever, unless she gave him permission to go. Our MC turns to the old lady. Do you want to move out? Grandma Vance nearly choked. She was just too furious to even speak. He waited a full 10 seconds. Whenever you feel like it, just let me know. I'll even help carry the bags. Grandma clutched her chest, about to pass out from pure rage. He ignores them completely, grabs some fancy snacks from the kitchen, and heads upstairs. The second he was gone, you could feel the collective sigh of relief from the living room. It was like they'd all just survived a deadly hostage situation. Arthur rushed to blend a warm veggie smoothie and brought it to his grandmother. Grandma, drink this. Don't let anger ruin your health. She took the glass, moved to tears. You are the only thoughtful one, not like that ungrateful monster. I raised him, and this is how he repays me. Arthur looked around nervously. Grandma, be quiet. Don't let him hear you. He then turned to his childhood nanny, Nanny Helen. Nanny Helen, could you please sneak upstairs and see what he's doing? Nanny Helen nodded and tiptoed up the stairs. But minutes later, she sprinted back down, gasping in sheer panic. Madam, second young master, it's terrible, the eldest young master. He threw all of the second young master's clothes and shoes out of his, room. He said that room belongs to him now. Arthur shot up and bolted up the stairs in a flash. Reaching his bedroom door, he found all of his expensive clothes piled up like a mountain of garbage in the hall. He screamed in despair, "What are you doing? What in the world are you doing?" Vincent was casually tossing his limited edition watches into a box. "This is my room," he replied deadpan. "I don't need these things in here." Arthur stared at his mountain of clothes, his eyes bloodshot. "These are my things, you can't touch them. And you definitely can't steal my room. When Mom brought me to this family, she said this was my room." Vincent's reply was cold. "Even after I was sent to Greenwood Asylum, this room remained legally and factually mine. So your claim is nothing but a lie." Arthur screamed back, "I'm not lying," then quickly softened his tone. "Everyone in the family, Grandma, Dad, Mom, the sisters, they all told me this was my room. That's why I stayed here," but Vincent remained indifferent. "If you claiming this room is yours contradicts reality, that just means your parents lied. When they return, I will correct their mistake for them." Arthur was stunned. The servants were paralyzed. What was this guy saying? Correct the mistakes of the master and madam. This guy was really insane. He had zero respect for the heads of the family. Swallowing his tears and rage, Arthur turned to the maids. "Nanny Helen, please help me move my things to the guest room. I'll just sleep there, it's fine." The guest room was a tiny 300-square-foot space, nothing like his massive luxury suite. The maids felt awful for him. "Second young master, how can you sleep in the guest room?" Arthur put a finger to his lips, whispering tragically, "Don't let him hear you. I'm afraid he'll hurt you all. I'll be fine. He's suffered a lot in the past. Now that he's back, I should be the one to yield." Hearing that, the maids nearly cried. The second young master was so handsome, so kind, so selfless, not like that absolute psycho inside. And then, crash. A heavy toy flew out of the room, slamming into the wall right next to a maid's head. She shrieked, then immediately clamped her mouth shut. Arthur looked at the cramped guest room and completely broke down, crying again, "Leave me alone. I don't want to see anyone right now." He threw himself onto the tiny bed, sobbing like his world was over. Grandma Vance hobbled in, sitting by his side and stroking his hair. "Don't be afraid, Arthur. Everything will be okay." Just as the maids quietly slipped out, a figure burst through the front doors downstairs, screaming at the top of her lungs, "Where is Vincent? Didn't he come back? Why did no one tell me? Where is my Arthur? Did Vincent really kick Arthur out?" Brothers shouldn't fight. The maids were overjoyed. The third miss is back. He was finally home, but before anyone could greet him, Vincent Vance, the third miss, kicked open Arthur's old bedroom door and wailed dramatically, "Arthur! Arthur, did you really get kicked out? Where's all your stuff?" a maid whispered awkwardly. Third miss, the second young master wasn't actually thrown out. He was just moved. The eldest young master evicted him into the guest room. Ivan stormed out furiously. She tore out of the suite like a hurricane, bolting for the guest room screaming, "Arthur, how could this happen to you?" Vincent had just returned, and he was already assaulting family members. She was about to teach him a serious lesson. Meanwhile, down in the dining room, our main character was just enjoying a late-night snack. Suddenly, a woman storms in, points a finger right at him, and screams, "You lunatic. You just got back and you already threw Grandma and Arthur out. You're out of line." He simply picked up a silver fork, sliding a piece of chocolate cake into his mouth. Chewing slowly, his eyes gave the intruder a quick, dismissive scan. She was about 5'9", athletic build, zero body fat. This woman clearly lived at the gym. She was dressed in sporty streetwear, her long hair flowing, and her face absolutely top-tier beautiful, though currently twisted up in pure rage. He didn't answer. Instead of defending himself, he simply stated, "Arthur initially said he'd move out, voluntarily. Then a few minutes later, he changed his mind. He is entirely untrustworthy." His gaze met hers, and for a split second, Ivan's eyes widened. Whoa. Holy crap, she thought. That kid has zero makeup on and he's that gorgeous. It was true, he used to be a little tiger cub when he was young. Always glaring, but now he was even better looking than Arthur. But then she snapped out of it. What was she thinking? Why was she admiring a complete psycho? She shook her head with a slight blush and refocused her anger. He withdrew his gaze and simply picked up another piece of cake. You're still eating at a time like this. Do you think you have the right to enjoy cake right now? Explain yourself. Ivan, infuriated by his total indifference, lunged forward to snatch the plate right away. But with shocking speed, his wrist flicked. He gripped his steak knife and fork, pointing the sharp tips directly at her forearm. Ah, Ivan absolutely shrieked. She clutched her arm, hopping backward in pain. It hurts, you psycho. The servant stared, totally shocked. The third miss was a sports major after all. A student at a prestigious university with a black belt in Taekwondo. She was supposed to be a badass. How did the eldest young master stab her in less than a second? You crazy bastard. Ivan couldn't take this level of humiliation. She was the beautiful older sister. How dare he look down on her? She had to teach him a lesson. A wicked smirk crossed her face as she grabbed crab scissors. Cracking scissors from the table, she bared her teeth. Let's see how you like a haircut. She aimed the scissors straight for his hair. Clang, clang. He rotated his wrists with fluid grace, using the knife and fork to parry the attack. It was so fast, the servants had to rub their eyes. They couldn't even track the eldest young master's movements. This wasn't some kind of action movie. Ivan was stunned too, but 2.5 seconds later, she recovered. Regaining her composure, she changed her angle, launching a flurry of snips right at his head. Clang, cling, clang, a continuous symphony of metal against metal echoed through the dining room. Every single strike from Ivan's scissors was effortlessly blocked by his dining utensils. After her 13th failed attempt, Ivan gave up, slamming the scissors on the table and glaring. You psycho. Grandma is an elder, and Arthur lived here for 18 years. You just got back and you threw them out, and now you're throwing Arthur's things out of his room. You're crossing the line. Even if they made a mistake, you can't be this violent. You have to apologize to Grandma and Arthur. An apology isn't enough. Just then, Grandma Vance stormed into the dining room, drawn by the sound. She slammed her cane down. Make him kneel and kowtow. He humiliated us in front of the entire neighborhood. How can I ever show my face again? Before Ivan could agree, he spoke up. Deadpan, I will not apologize and I will not kneel. Ivan puffed out her cheeks. If you don't apologize, the family will punish you. He tilted his head, genuinely curious. And who is going to punish me? You. You can't even beat me in a fight. Ivan flushed a deep red. Who says I can't beat you? Listen here, kid, don't be so arrogant, or you'll be the one crying for mercy. No one is going to save you. He looked Ivan up and down. When they were little, she used to pull his hair and draw turtles on his face while he slept. He retaliated by beating her so badly, she ran around the house crying for their mother. Ivan's face burned hotter under his gaze. You're making things up. You were tiny back then, how could you beat me? Mom told me not to bully my baby brother, so I let you win. You were the one crying for Mom. Ah, he frowned. Are you an elementary school student? We are discussing serious matters. Why are you arguing like a toddler? Although toddler logic is quite terrifying in its own way. He paused, then delivered the verdict. You lied again. Lying requires punishment. He turned his head. Butler Lewis, bring me a rope. Butler Lewis trembled. What? What do you need a rope for, young master? To tie the third miss up and make her stand outside as punishment. Ivan's mouth twisted in disbelief. You lunatic, don't push it. If I get serious, you'll be the one begging for mercy. He took the rope from the trembling butler and said calmly, 3 lies. Your punishment is standing outside for the entire night. Ivan roared and lunged at him to snatch the rope. Let me show you how dangerous your big sister really is. 10 minutes later. Ivan Vance, the #1 campus beauty of Sugar City University, had lost the battle. She was securely tied to the iron fence right outside the mansion gates. She screamed into the night, "You punchable psycho, untie me right now. Apologize immediately or else I won't let you off." The servants hovered nearby, looking incredibly awkward. "Third miss, please. Don't scream so loudly. If you attract the neighbors and the guards, it'll be even more embarrassing for you." Besides, a maid whispered, "Even if you curse louder, we don't dare untie you." Before you got home, several people were sent to the hospital and still haven't returned. Ivan screamed for a long time, but nobody dared to free her. Instead, neighbors started coming out, pointing and laughing at the ridiculous scene. "Call the police," she ordered. "Tell them to arrest him," Butler Lewis whispered cautiously. "The police already came, miss. The eldest young master is diagnosed with severe depression and bipolar disorder. If he's triggered, he might do something too extreme." The police called it a domestic issue and refused to get involved. Besides, it's highly inconvenient for them to arrest a certified lunatic. A psychiatric patient, Ivan was furious. Were they all just going to stand there and watch this psycho bully her? Butler Lewis could only look at her bruised face. He felt like crying himself. "Third miss, I truly understand your pain, but we really can't do anything about the eldest young master," Ivan seethed. She took a deep breath. "Fine, tell those nosy neighbors to get lost. Stop pointing and filming. Anyone who posts a video of me is getting sued." Sued into bankruptcy. Hiding behind an oak tree, Arthur watched the entire scene unfold. He saw Ivan get humiliated, tied to the gate like some rotisserie chicken. Gritting his teeth, he cursed at her weakness and pulled out his phone. He recorded a video of Ivan's tragic state and sent it to the second miss, Isabella. "Sister Isabella, Grandma got so angry she fell ill and is now crying. Sister Ivan was beaten by Vincent and tied to the gate. You have to come home and save them." Isabella was shocked, so Vincent was finally back. And on day one, he'd already turned the whole house upside down. How outrageous. "Hold on, Arthur," she texted back. "I'm asking the director for time off now. I'll bring my personal security team tomorrow morning and save you all." The next morning, Vincent's sleep was shattered by a thunderous banging on his door. Ivan's hoarse voice echoed down the hall. "Vincent, get out here right now. If you don't, I'm smashing this door down." The servants watched from a distance. Their faces were pale. "Third miss, are you really going to smash the door? If you do, who knows what the eldest young master will do to you next." Reminded of last night's horror, Ivan hesitated, but only for a moment. Remembering her second sister had arrived, she puffed out her chest with new courage. "What am I afraid of? Sister Isabella is here. She's not a pushover like me." Just then the door suddenly swung open. Her hand, raised to pound the wood, was caught. It was stopped midair by a large, firm grip. Vincent stood there in his pajamas. He stared at her, dead serious. "You explicitly stated you would smash the door. I waited 3 minutes and you didn't. You lied again. The penalty for this is to stand outside for 2 hours." Ivan's face completely drained of color. The memory of being tied to the gate all night rushed back like a waking nightmare. Nobody in the family had dared to save her, not a single one of them. Only the butler and a few maids had secretly burned mosquito coils nearby and fed her. The neighbors had laughed at her. Eventually, security guards couldn't take the noise. They finally untied her at dawn, but she was still covered in itchy mosquito bites. She opened her mouth to yell, "You wouldn't dare," but she immediately thought better of it. That would just be setting herself up for failure. Vincent then looked at the butler. Butler Lewis fetched the rope. Before the pale butler could even move, a voice cut in. A cold, arrogant voice rang out. "I'm here now. A psycho like you doesn't call the shots." Vincent looked past Ivan. A highly fashionable, impeccably groomed woman stood there. Dressed in designer clothes, she stood behind the crowd, glaring right at him. It was Isabella Vance, his second sister, and a famous A-list actress. Back in the asylum, he had watched a few of her dramas. Many patients were huge fans. Seeing her in person felt strangely familiar, almost like seeing a distant relative on TV. Lying requires punishment, he stated matter-of-factly. Does second sister want to take it? Take my sister's punishment, Ivan snapped back, don't you dare. Ivan demands to be called third sister, still fuming about last night's grudge. Vincent simply nods. He sarcastically agrees that admitting fault is good and asks if the second sister wants to take the third sister's punishment for him. Ivan explodes, telling him not to even use her name. She accuses him of having no respect for his elders, so he offers to call her number 3. That's not happening either, so he asks her plainly what she wants to be called. Her eyes light up with petty triumph. Call me master. He just looks her up and down. She's completely serious. His response, you're not mentally stable. Ivan nearly combusts. She shrieks back that he's the one who's unstable, that his whole family is unstable. The servants could only think, third miss, you're part of this family too, you know. They begged her internally not to argue with the crazy one, because when you argue with crazy, you just become crazy yourself. Arguing with the eldest young master. Vincent makes them both look like giant children. That's when Isabella steps in, all business. She puts on her best CEO actress face. Vincent, I have one question. Did you kick Arthur into the guest room? But Vincent just corrects her. I didn't kick him out. He simply threw every single one of his belongings out of his own room. He absolutely refuses to let Arthur stay in his personal space. Isabella's voice drops, turning icy. She demands he leave the room immediately so Arthur can move back in. Otherwise, she'll force him to write a 600-word apology letter, but he's not having any of it. No letter and no way is he giving up the room. Isabella swallows her fury. She tries a new tactic. Her room is the second largest, designed by a master decorator. And it's absolutely gorgeous. She's actually willing to give her room to him in exchange. All he has to do is give that room back to Arthur. He scoffs. No, Isabella's eye twitches. This lunatic is so stubborn. She glances around, then lowers her voice for only the siblings to hear. Listen to me, she whispers. When I debuted, I hired a feng shui master. He said that room has terrible feng shui. Normal people can't handle that negative energy. My room has the best feng shui in the house. How else do you think I became an A-list star in just 4 years? Listen to your sister. But he stands firm, hands clasped behind him. I decline. This room was prepared for me specifically by our mother. I will only sleep right here. So Isabella changes tactics again. All right, what about this? Give up the room and I will buy you identical copies of everything that Arthur owns. Plus, I'll buy you a supercar. Deal? He looks at her like she's a complete moron. No, that's it. Isabella finally loses her cool. Name your price. Whatever you want, I'll get it. He just shakes his head. I lack nothing, and I don't need your charity. Isabella stomps her designer heels in pure frustration. Then I have no choice. I'm locking you in the dark room until you finish that 600-word apology and give the room back to Arthur. Now this dark room she's talking about, it's just the family study. Back when she was a kid, she hated homework so much that the place felt like a terrifying dungeon to her. He just looks at her. You are incapable of doing that. The servant sighs on the inside. Here we go again. Another round. Who will win this time? The eldest young master's crazy logic or the second Mrs. Elite bodyguards? Isabella flips her perfectly styled hair back with confidence. She lifts her chin. I heard you learned to fight in the asylum. Ivan and the house guards couldn't take you, but I came prepared. And with that, she claps her hands. 4 intimidating figures step out from behind her. 2 men, 2 women, all looking serious. Dressed in sleek tactical gear, exuding sharp, professional auras. Stood her personal bodyguards, Isabella bragged, highly professional and extremely experienced. The young master glanced at the 4 of them and shook his head. Insufficient, he told her to swap them out. Isabella pointed a manicured nail at him, furious. You psycho, you dare look down on me. If they can't lock you in that study today, then I'll drop the Vance family name. The servants started to panic. Second miss, your bodyguards are elite, but please choose your words carefully. The eldest young master takes everything literally. What if you actually lose? He nodded. Wait here for a moment. Isabella just smirked, thinking he was scared. She was a famous idol, radiating pure main character energy. Who could resist her? Her bodyguards were top-tier mercenaries from a global security firm. One was a marksman, the others were close-quarters combat experts. He's ready. Let's begin, he announced, stepping back into view. Isabella flinched, staring in horror at the tool now in his hand. A custom-forged steel hammer about the length of his forearm, with one rounded head and one sharp spike. For some reason, just seeing it made everyone imagine the young master smashing their skulls open like watermelons. It was an absolutely terrifying thought. They all shivered involuntarily, taking several cautious steps back. What are you doing with that hammer? Isabella stammered. I just gently tap people with it, he replied softly. Isabella instinctively backed away. Tap who? My skin is insured. You can't touch me. If you ruin my face, how can I act? Whoever touches me gets tapped, he clarified. Isabella swallowed hard. Are you threatening me? He was stating a fact. Isabella gritted her teeth. Grab him. The female bodyguard lunged forward with lightning speed. Her left hand shot for his wrist, while her right hand aimed to lock his shoulder. Her movements were incredibly fast, a blur to any normal person. A person wouldn't even have time to blink, but he was faster, the second her hand touched his sleeve. The hammer swung, tapping its rounded end directly against her elbow joint. Crack, a sickeningly crisp sound echoed through the room. The female bodyguard let out a muffled groan. Her left arm went completely limp, trembling uncontrollably. At the same time, her right hand grazed his left shoulder. So he swung the hammer down onto her right hand. She shrieked, yanking her hand back. The skin instantly swelled into a nasty red welt as both her arms were now incapacitated. He delivered a swift kick to her kneecap. She stumbled backward, barely caught by a teammate before she collapsed. The two male bodyguards flanked him from both sides. As they rushed in, he ducked low, entering his stance. It was like a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole. And with terrifying precision, he used the rounded hammerhead to rapidly strike both of their kneecaps. In less than a second, before they could even touch him, both towering men collapsed, clutching their knees in pure agony. It looked like some DIY orthopedic surgery. They weren't getting up anytime soon. He looked down at them. Can you stand? Their hands were fine, but their knees were completely shattered. Standing up was physically impossible. Isabella's face went completely pale. The last uninjured female bodyguard didn't dare to move forward. Instead, she urgently told Isabella, "Boss, we have to get them to a hospital, now." Any delay and that nerve damage could become permanent. Isabella just ground her teeth. "Butler Lewis, get them to the ER now," she ordered, turning on her heel. But he simply stepped sideways, blocking the hallway with his hammer. "What are you doing?" Isabella snapped. "Can't you see we have a medical?" "Emergency, just a simple reminder," he said evenly. "You did explicitly state that if you failed to lock him in the study, you dropped the Vance family name. You should probably head to the courthouse to legally change your surname now." Isabella was about to explode. Was this really the time to talk about that? "Of course, were you planning on going back on your word?" Isabella's eye twitched. Violently, "So what if I am? What are you going to do about it?" His answer, "I'll tie you up and drag you to the police station, if you still refuse. To change your name, I'll find a crowded public square and make you stand there. As punishment until you agree." Isabella's face turned a deep, furious red. She screamed internally, "What is wrong with this psycho? Is his brain missing? Or is it filled with water? Who thinks like this?" Taking a deep breath, she forced a smile. A very fake, camera-ready smile. "Give me 2 days, okay? 2 days and then maybe. Another 2 and we'll figure it all out." Denied. Efficiency is paramount. "Procrastination is unacceptable," he stated firmly. Isabella felt that olive. Her years surviving the cutthroat entertainment industry had been completely useless. Her ironclad mental defenses were crumbling after just 5 minutes with this man. Thinking fast, Isabella just spun around and bolted for the stairs. If she couldn't beat him, she could definitely outrun him. She was that confident. Confident in her cardio, there was no way this psycho was going to catch her. 3 seconds later, she reached the staircase. 5 seconds later, she was sprinting through the living room. 10 seconds later, she was nearing the front gates. And then a firm grip locked onto the back of her designer belt. "Second sister, where are you rushing off to?" His voice whispered directly into her ear. Like a sleep paralysis demon, panicking, Isabella whipped her head around. She reached out to pinch his cheek, remembering how soft and squishy they were. Back when they were kids, pinching him always made him mad enough to try. And punch her, she figured a pinch now would make him let go of her belt to block it. But who could have predicted he'd just tilt his head to dodge the attack, while simultaneously yanking backward on her belt with incredible force. Rip. Snap, the buckle on her $5,000 belt shattered under the pressure. Even worse, she'd been too lazy to button her high-waisted trousers this morning. So the sudden loss of her belt caused her pants to instantly drop to her ankles. Exposed to the morning breeze was a pair of bright yellow panties featuring a massive graphic of SpongeBob SquarePants. No one could have ever guessed that the glamorous, untouchable A-list idol secretly wore cartoon underwear, especially since she had just bragged in an interview last week that she never, ever watched cartoons. Isabella wanted the earth to swallow her whole. She yanked her pants up with lightning speed, clutching the waistband for dear life, and screamed, "You lunatic, let go of me. If you don't, I swear I'll ruin you. Your reputation is already ruined," he pointed out. He stated calmly, "You don't need my help with that," sending Isabella over the edge. She screamed, "Why does a psycho like you exist, and why do you have to be my brother?" Not even her most toxic anti-fans combined were as utterly unhinged as this guy. He snapped her designer belt and exposed her SpongeBob underwear. "Brainless second sister," he said calmly, "I'm taking you to change your surname." He turned his head as Butler Lewis fetched the Mrs. ID and the family registry. The butler looked at the tragic state of the second miss. His eyes filled with panic, silently asking the young master what to do. Isabella squeezed her eyes shut, muttering like a chant, "The psycho is just joking. I'm not changing my name. I'm an A-list celebrity. My stage name was chosen by a master. I can't just change it." But a calm voice cut in. "Lies and incorrect statements can be retracted," he interrupted. Everyone froze. They all thought the psycho actually knew how to give her an out. He understood negotiation, but that rigid fairness was exactly what made him so terrifyingly unpredictable. Isabella rejoiced internally and was about to say, "Then I retract it," but he cut her off. "Kneeling and apologizing to me will be enough. Kneel." This psycho actually dared to demand the Vance family's second miss get on her knees. Isabella's bangs trembled with rage. "Don't push it, you psycho. Who do you think I am?" "When I came home yesterday," he replied, "everyone demanded that I kneel. I just assumed this was a cherished Vance family tradition. I'm only following." "Tradition?" Isabella glared at him, their eyes locking in a battle of wills. Finally, she raised a hand in defeat. "Fine, I'll change my surname, Happy." She realized reasoning with him was impossible. Plus, the neighbors were starting to peek over the hedges again. If this dragged on, her career would be over. She'd take the loss for now. Even if she changed her legal name, she could still use Isabella Vance as her stage name. "I'll let you go," he said, releasing her. "But you are being deceitful. I will personally escort you to the police station." Isabella swore to the heavens that despite facing countless sleazy producers and creepy stalkers, she had never, ever wanted to physically murder someone as badly as she wanted to murder her own brother. And she hated that she couldn't beat him in a fight. She took a deep breath. "Fine, you come with me." Ivan watched them leave and muttered to herself, "Staying here is pointless. The psycho doesn't need my help, and I Can't help Grandma or Arthur, whatever, I'm just going back to campus. It was a dog-eat-dog world. Grandma and Arthur lost, and now Isabella surrendered. If you don't surrender, you suffer. The servants exchanged looks, thinking that knowing the second miss, she wouldn't give up this easily. She was probably faking it to plan her escape or a counterattack. But by noon, Butler Lewis returned alone, holding the family registry. The second miss has officially changed her surname. Everyone leaned in, dying for the details. What did she change it to? Butler Lewis just shook his head. Isabella Smith. She took her mother's maiden name. The crowd had no comment. Isabella's assistant, Helen, stood on her tiptoes, staring at the door. Why hasn't the second miss come back yet? Butler Lewis replied. After changing her name, she left immediately. She claimed she couldn't beat the eldest young master in a straight-up fight. So she's laying low until things cool down, and everyone felt a wave of relief. What a pathetic sight, the glamorous second miss, defeated so tragically, hiding. From behind his favorite oak tree, Arthur watched the whole thing go down. He silently cursed Isabella. What an absolute piece of trash. She acts tough, makes $10 million a movie, and has 4 elite bodyguards. And yet she gets chased out by a psycho in less than 1 day. Utter failure. He realized he couldn't rely on his sisters anymore. It was time for a new plan. So he snuck into a bathroom, called his eldest sister, and started fake crying. Eldest sister, he sobbed. Vincent forced Isabella to change her last name. After hanging up, the maid Helen approached. Second young master, she said. It's time for dinner. Is Vincent there? Yes, he's in the dining room. Arthur shook his head. I don't have an appetite. Bring food to my room. But Helen flashed a strange, almost wicked smile. Second young master, she purred. You should really come to the dining room. There's a great show about to start. She leaned in and whispered into his ear, and Arthur's eyes instantly lit up. He almost laughed out loud, but remembered his innocent persona, forcing a conflicted look. Is that really a good idea? He stammered. You're too kind, she said. Helen scoffed. Even if you forgive him for the bullying, you have to think about the old madam. He treated his own grandmother like complete garbage. In the old days, a crime like that would get you paraded through the streets and then beheaded. We're just playing a tiny little prank compared to his actions. This is nothing. Arthur pretended to hesitate for a long moment before finally sighing. Fine, but just this once, Helen mimed, zipping her lips. I guarantee it. In a much better mood, Arthur followed her right to the dining room. And there sat Vincent, in the prime seat usually reserved for Grandma Vance, totally motionless. Seeing Arthur and Helen enter, he simply waved his hand. Come here, he ordered. Helen pointed to herself confidently. He just nodded. Yes, you, she swaggered over. Does the eldest young master need something? Vincent slid his phone across the table. On the screen was live security camera footage. I watched you cook. You added some highly unsanitary ingredients into these 3 dishes. I will not eat them. Your punishment is to consume all 3 dishes yourself. The other servants peeked at the screen and nearly vomited. The footage showed everything. Maid Helen spat right into the soup pot, picked her nose, and flicked it into the stir-fry. She scratched her scalp and feet, then used those same filthy, unwashed hands to mix the salad. Was this slop even meant for human consumption? Helen's face turned a sickly pale. She stammered, Why, young master? I didn't. Are you lying? Vincent asked flatly, as Helen's face twisted in fear. The servants felt their blood run cold. The events of the last 24 hours had left a massive psychological scar on every single one of them. The moment Vincent mentioned lying, a primal fear gripped them. Helen broke down sobbing. Young master, I know I was wrong. It was a moment of sheer stupidity. Please, you have a big heart. Just give me one chance to fix this. Vincent looked at her, his eyes dead serious. If you truly realize your mistake, you must accept your punishment with sincerity. No, I don't want the punishment. I'll do anything else, she pleaded, gasping. Very well, you are fired. Leave the Vance estate immediately and never come back. Just as he expected, this psycho never lets anyone off the hook. Arthur saw his accomplice about to cry and couldn't stand it. He stepped right up. Brother, admitting a mistake is a good thing. Give Maid Helen a chance. I believe she'll change, but our protagonist cut him off, then you eat it. Arthur's face instantly went pale. He then turned back to Maid Helen. As long as someone is willing to eat your food for you, you can stay. Maid Helen looked around desperately, pleading for help. But everyone suddenly found their shoes fascinating. Even Arthur looked away, pretending to be captivated by the chandelier. He waited a few seconds, then picked up a clean bowl of untouched silver ear mushroom soup. Before I finish this, you must make a choice. Otherwise, I'll personally escort you out, Maid Helen just wailed. She was filled with absolute terror and regret. Why did she think it was a good idea to mess with a certified lunatic? A crazy person doesn't follow normal logic. She thought the psycho would fall for her simple trap and eat the disgusting food. She absolutely could not stomach the stuff herself. But if she refused, she'd be fired. She only had a basic culinary certificate from some community college. Out there, she'd break her back for 60 hours a week just to make minimum wage, here at the Vance estate. She made top dollar for easy work and lived in luxury staff housing. Plus, with the second young master owing her a favor, she might get connections to work for other wealthy families. Caught in a brutal dilemma, she watched in horror as he finished the last drop of soup and set the bowl down, wiping his mouth clean. It seems you have made your choice. No, Maid Helen shrieked. I can't bear to leave the second young master. I will eat it, the entire staff gasped. She was actually going to be that ruthless with herself. Maid Helen picked up a plate of the awful stir-fry with a trembling hand. She grabbed her chopsticks and shoved the food into her mouth, tears streaming down her face like a waterfall. She tried to brainwash herself. I'm a starving peasant. I haven't eaten for a month. I'm dying of hunger. This vegetable is fresh and delicious. I love it. She opened her mouth like a starved animal, frantically shoveling the food down her throat. The other servants turned away, gagging. They were trying desperately not to lose their own lunch. Meanwhile, he calmly picked up a plate of imported cherries, popping them into his mouth one by one. Half an hour later, Maid Helen finished the last bite and sprinted to the kitchen sink, violently throwing up everything she had eaten. He stood up, using the gentle tone of a kindergarten teacher. You have served your punishment. The matter is resolved. Learn from this and do not repeat it. The servants were in awe. This psycho was delivering life lessons with complete sincerity. No insults, no mockery. Does he really think he's just correcting bad behavior? He walked right out of the dining room. Arthur stared at his retreating back, eyes burning with toxic hatred. He's this old and nobody can control him. Just then, his phone buzzed. Seeing the video call, his face instantly morphed into a bright, genuine smile. Sean, long time no see. The handsome face of Sean appeared on screen. A face appears on the screen. Tomorrow night's my birthday bash. Check this out. Which watch looks better with this tailored suit? Arthur eyed the obscenely expensive jewelry, a flash of raw jealousy hiding behind his smile. The Vance family was rich, absolutely, but compared to the Shaws, they were basically peasants. The Shaw conglomerate stood as the largest private enterprise in the entire Eastern Republic. A century-old dynasty with wealth, status, and an influence that made the Vances look like small-timers, and this was Sean Shaw, the youngest son. He was the ultimate spoiled rich kid and a huge trending idol. The very definition of being born with a silver spoon, just getting an invite to his party, was a major status symbol. After giving some fashion advice, Arthur finally asked, Sean, my brother is back. When's your eldest sister coming home? Sean sneered with pure disgust. That demon doesn't deserve to be my sister. Don't call her that. It actually makes me sick. He rolled his eyes. If my family didn't need her back for that stupid arranged marriage with your psycho brother, she could rot on that island forever. Arthur's curiosity flared up. Did the demon really kill someone? Obviously, Sean scoffed. She took out 3 people at once. Right in front of her entire graduating class, Arthur leaned in. Tell me everything. Let's see whose sibling is crazier, my psycho brother or your demon sister. Sean just shook his head. I was just a kid back then, we weren't close. I don't know the bloody details. I just know she graduated high school early, went on a senior trip, took a life, and then went straight to prison. Rumor is, she and her best friend snuck out to the nightlife district, got high on some banned substances, and she used a fruit knife to slice up 3 local guys. Sean went on, the local cops pinned it on her instantly. And because she was a minor, my family was asked to cooperate. But my parents basically considered her a lost cause and abandoned her to the system. She was slammed with the maximum sentence and thrown into a supermax island prison. And from that day on, no one ever heard from her again. Arthur's eyes widened. She was that young and she got 10 years. That's insane. She's a genius, Sean admitted bitterly. Certified IQ completely off the charts, graduated high school at 14. Scored the highest on the national college entrance exams, but who cares? I'm more scared of an educated criminal than a street thug. A smart psycho like her. Thank God she got locked up early, otherwise who knows how many lives she would have ruined. Arthur was completely thrilled by this story. How does a 14-year-old take down 3 adults at once? No idea. Supposedly it happened in a VIP room with no cameras. The next morning, staff found 3 guys bleeding out on the floor. Her best friend was injured, and Serena was passed out cold with the knife in her hand. The cops only found her fingerprints on the weapon, and her blood tested positive for some seriously illegal potions. Her friend testified they got drunk and a fight broke out, causing Serena to just snap. The official ruling, substance-induced homicidal psychosis. Wow, a total demon, Arthur gasped, faking his horror. Using those substances at her age and taking 3 lives, she's not even human. She and your psycho brother are a match made in hell, Sean chuckled darkly. Sounds like you really hate your brother too, huh? Tell me what happened. And so, the 2 rich kids spent the next hour trading family horror stories. Meanwhile, in a maximum security prison, a different kind of drama was unfolding. On an isolated island in the Southeast Asian seas, we meet Serena Shaw. She was lounging on a rusty metal chair, her long legs propped up casually. On the table in her hand was a razor-thin, incredibly sharp blade. She was currently using this deadly weapon to meticulously trim her nails. Her movements were as fluid and precise as a Michelin star chef. She shaved the edges of her nails into perfect, smooth arcs. Not a single millimeter of skin was touched, blowing the dust off the last one. She admired her handiwork. Not bad, a very clean manicure for today. Despite living in a filthy, decaying island prison, Serena always remained flawless. She was like a pristine white lotus blooming in the middle of a toxic swamp. Beside her, a handsome teenage inmate stood by, ready to serve. He carefully collected the nail clippings, looking at her with pure adoration. Boss, you are the most beautiful entity in the entire universe. Across 9 realms and 8 dimensions, no one can surpass your beauty. Your bootlicking skills are improving, Serena praised with a lazy smile. You're even using proper idioms. The handsome teen looked absolutely ecstatic. He had just been handed the Holy Grail. He carefully placed the clippings into a small glass jar, sighing, "The boss is beautiful. And even her nail clippings are perfect. I will treasure this collection." Every single prisoner on this isolated rock had some kind of weird obsession. Serena was completely used to it. She retracted the blade. She leaned on the armrest, stretched, and made her demand. "Tell the warden I want to go home and get married. I want out of this place today. Prep the chopper. Fly me to the mainland. From there, I'll make my own way back to the Eastern Republic." The teen instantly bolted for the door, but stopped. He turned back with big, teary puppy dog eyes. "Boss, you are my light. My everything, my one and only miss. Wherever you go, can I please follow? No, Serena replied flatly, but the teen was already celebrating. Long live the queen. He threw his hands up in manic joy, preparing to sprint off again. Wait, Serena called out. Bring Little Black with you, Little Black. The teen pouted aggressively. He's so dumb, he's smaller than me. And he looks like a gremlin. He'll just be dead weight, boss. Serena shot him a look. Are you teaching me how to run my crew? He was asked. No, no, absolutely not. The teen trembled, bowing his head. I'm just jealous of him. Jealous that I'm not the favorite, he admitted. Get lost and do your job. Serena ordered coldly, and the teen vanished, upon receiving the news. The warden dropped to his knees in front of a crucifix, praying frantically. He desperately made the sign of the cross. Praise the Lord, thank you for answering my prayers. Please, God, ensure she never returns to this island. If she does, my only plan is jumping into the ocean. An hour later, Serena, flanked by the handsome teen and a smaller, brooding kid named Little Black, who was now holding her tactical blade, walked through the prison halls. It was a farewell tour through the gauntlet of the general population cell block. You bitch, one inmate yelled, gripping the bars, when you get bored out there. Come back, I'll wait for you, while another psycho screamed, don't ever come back. I hope you get hit by a bus and your plane gets struck by lightning and eaten by sharks. But a third voice just laughed. Even if she gets eaten, it would be a privilege for those sharks. Near the exit, a huge, tattooed brute stared Serena down. Looking absolutely radiant in the dim prison light, he licked his lips, his eyes flashing with raw, unfiltered lust. As Serena passed by, he reached a thick arm through the bars, aggressively flicking the handsome teen behind her. Serena paused, a small smirk playing on her lips. You dare touch his head. The handsome teen reacted like a cat whose tail just got stomped on. He clutched his head, shrieking as if his entire family line had just been cursed. You touched my head, you made me lose all my face in front of the boss. The other inmates just howled with laughter. Kid, don't act like your head is some kind of sacred ground. Our hands are cleaner than your brain. Serena didn't even turn around, she just stopped. What did I teach you? The teen rolled his eyes, turning to the brute, who was almost 2 heads taller, and gave him a terrifyingly sweet smile. You like touching my head that much, huh? The brute sneered back at him. Get lost, you little rat. When I get out, I won't just flick your head, I'll use it as a soccer ball. He genuinely believed, with Serena gone, he'd become the new king of the cell block, so he couldn't resist asserting his dominance. The teen just blinked innocently. Then let me give you another chance to touch it. The brute laughed, reaching out again to grab the boy's hair, but faster than lightning, the teen seized him. He grabbed the brute's thick wrist and violently twisted it to the left. The man let out a blood-curdling pig squeal. His elbow, thick as a tree, popped clean out of its socket with a sickening crunch, but he wasn't done yet. The teen pinned the twisted arm to the bars and delivered a devastating, full-force kick straight into the brute's groin. Everyone in the cell block winced as a sound like crushing eggshells echoed through the corridor. The inmates went absolutely wild, rattling the bars and screaming. That's the boss's little wolf cub right there. Did you idiots forget who trained him? Serena is the resident explosives expert, after all. It was a full-blown riot. Sweat poured down the brute's face like a waterfall. He screamed in pure agony, his face twisting into a mask of total rage. Swinging his one good arm blindly, he tried to choke the teen out. The kid easily ducked, opened his mouth wide, and bit down hard. He bit the brute's wrist like a starving tiger, tearing into its prey. The brute finally yanked his arm back with his third scream of the minute. His body convulsed as if struck by lightning. The inmates cheered even louder, treating this beatdown like it was the Super Bowl halftime show, and Serena. She didn't even turn around to watch the show, just casually strolled out. Wait for me, boss. The teen wiped his mouth clean and happily skipped right after her. Beyond the cell blocks was the rec yard. And beyond that, the main gates. A sniper watched from the tower above. But one rugged, scarred guard watched Serena's every move as she left. He instinctively crossed his legs, his eyes burning with absolute murderous rage. Half a month ago, fresh on the island, he saw her and made his move. He tried to corner the alluring Serena in the break room for some so-called private time. The result, he permanently lost his ability to ever have a family. He went screaming to the warden, demanding Serena be tossed into the ocean. But the warden just sighed, "You're not the first, and trust me, you won't be the last." "Even a god can't save you from your own brand of stupid," the guard simmered. He spent 2 weeks recovering in the infirmary. Today was his first day back. And the first thing he sees is the demon who ruined his life getting released. These inmates were the absolute worst, scum meant to rot and die on this rock. So why did she get to just walk away? It wasn't fair. He raised his M16. He centered the crosshairs right on the back of Serena's head. People died here. Or they went missing all the time. If one more inmate just vanished, who would care? Just as his finger squeezed the trigger, Serena suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. She tilted her head up, looking directly at the watchtower he was in. Their eyes locked, the guard flinched, his fingers spasming in pure shock. He accidentally pulled the trigger. Bang, the bullet screamed past Serena's ear. It slammed into the concrete wall just behind her. So lucky. To survive 10 years in this hellhole, she must have the devil's own luck, he snarled. The guard adjusted his aim, readying a second, more careful shot. But then another guard tackled him, wrestling the rifle away with brutal force. "Are you completely insane, trying to get every last one of us killed?" he yelled. "You touch her and I'll put a bullet in your head myself," the guard was furious. "Why can't we kill her? Why is everyone so terrified of her? You all treat her like she's the damn warden of this whole prison." The second guard just shook his head. He looked at the rookie like he was a dead man walking. "Have you noticed that since this morning, this entire island has had no contact with the outside? No internet, no cell signal, not even the satellite phones are getting a signal. The fishing boats have no idea where we are. The supply helicopters can't find us. This prison is built on a sheer cliff in the absolute middle of nowhere. No birds, no passing ships. It runs completely on satellite communications. That's how we talk to the mainland and get our food and water drops every 2 weeks. What does any of that have to do with me shooting her?" the scarred guard grunted. "Serena," the older guard hissed, "she hijacked and completely disabled our satellite system. The mainland can't find us, and we have no way to call them for help. If the supply chopper can't get our signal, it'll run low on fuel and just turn back. This island is off every map. To the government, your life and my life are worthless. If headquarters loses contact with us, don't even think about a rescue mission." The scarred guard was completely floored. "She's that powerful." "Of course, you can't control an island with just hacking skills," the older guard explained. "That would be a fantasy, but this place is filled with desperate criminals. Do you really think they would submit to a teenage girl if she wasn't something more? She didn't have leverage. Serena's family has insane money. Word is someone paid the judges and cops a massive fortune to throw her in here. And the only reason she's walking out today is because someone paid the top brass. A massive fortune just to let her go. Who paid? The guard had no idea. He's not the one collecting the bribes, but the scarred guard wasn't satisfied. Releasing her like this completely shatters protocol. The older guard just laughed cynically. Protocol? In this place, money and power are the only rules that ever matter. The scarred guard slowly nodded. That made a twisted sort of sense. Then a noise. The heavy thrum of helicopter blades echoed across the prison yard, a transport chopper. It was preparing for takeoff with 4 people inside, Serena and the 2 teens. And a pilot, except the pilot wasn't in the cockpit. Serena was at the controls. "That's right, she can fly a chopper," the scarred guard gasped. "She got locked up." At 14, nobody knows how or where she could have possibly learned to fly. And get this, she sometimes flies that thing to the mainland for backdoor surgeries. For billionaire crime lords, surgeries, the scarred guard's brain was about to fry. He couldn't believe it, a surgeon too. Yep, nobody knows if she's a god or a demon, but she's capable of anything. The rich and powerful beg her to operate. If she really wanted to, she could have bought her freedom years and years ago. Nobody understands why she stayed in this hellhole for a whole decade instead. The guard just shook his head in disbelief. He can't imagine a prisoner like her. He admits he wouldn't last 3 days in here. The older guard nods. Exactly. Which is why if she dies, they all go down with her. A grim warning. The rookie only just got here, didn't do his research, and just saw a pretty face. He let his hormones do the thinking, but come on, a girl that beautiful. Surviving in a max security prison for men for 10 years without a single scratch. You really think she doesn't have lethal skills? The scarred guard went pale. The veteran lined in, lowering his voice. When Serena first arrived here, she was 14 and prettier than anyone. Of course, every single inmate was drooling. He asked the rookie, you know how she protected herself. The scarred he instinctively cut his groin. See, when you enter, you get stripped and hosed down and shaved. They do a full cavity search. But somehow she managed to bend a thin steel wire and hide it right between her toes. A 14-year-old kid. Who expects that kind of planning? Whoever checks the webbing of a kid's toes? So she smuggled the wire inside. The old guard just swallowed hard. Her first night, a dozen inmates cornered her in the showers. She cried, acting completely terrified, and begged them to come into the bathroom one by one so no one else could watch. The idiots bought it. They locked her in and started taking turns going inside. They thought they were about to have some fun. But while the guy was distracted, she twisted that steel wire and jammed it straight through his vocal cords. He was silenced instantly. Then she used his belt and his clothes, whatever she could find to rig traps and take down the very next guy. Before killing one, she'd force him to call out to the next person waiting in line. All night long, the men outside just heard her screaming and the other guys yelling. They thought it was some kind of party, but in reality, it was an assembly line slaughterhouse. She lured those predators into that bathroom of doom like a master butcher. One went in, one died. After finishing off all 12 of them, she just curled up and fell asleep in the middle of the bathroom floor. The next morning, the guard opened the door and he almost died of a heart attack. Blood flowed like a river, bodies stacked like firewood, and she was fast asleep on top of the pile. When the guard walked in, she woke up and simply smiled at him. The older guard clutched his chest, shuddering. He confessed, I was that guard. I still have nightmares. Cold sweat soaked the scarred guard's uniform, and he subconsciously clamped his legs tightly together. But she was only 14, so why didn't the prison just execute her? Because the person who paid a massive bribe to lock her up gave one specific order, that she had to be kept alive. The older guard continued, so, my friend, count your blessings I stopped you from doing something monumentally stupid just now. I understand, the scarred guard stammered, his confidence shattered. Thank you for stopping me. I owe you, but before he could even finish, over the roar of the helicopter blades, a sharp crack echoed. A red blossom exploded on the scarred guard's chest. He clutched his heart, slumped back against the concrete wall, and slowly slid down to the floor. In the final, fading seconds of his life, his blurry vision caught sight of Serena Shaw, sitting in the pilot's seat of the rising helicopter. Her face was a blank mask, holding a smoking black pistol in her hand. Later that afternoon, back in Metro City, our main character slowly opened his eyes from a nap. Glancing at the wall, he noticed the framed painting he kept there was missing. It was a cartoon-style self-portrait his mother had drawn just for him. He loved it, so he hung it where it would be the first thing he'd see waking up, but 10 long years had passed. On his first morning back at the Vance estate, Arthur had rudely woken him. So he hadn't paid any attention to the wall across from him. He sat up, grabbing his trusty small hammer from a pocket, pulled up a chair, stood on it, and tapped the exact spot where the painting used to hang. The drywall crumbled away easily, revealing a hollowed-out hole. It was totally empty, before his family exiled him to the Greenwood Asylum. He had chipped this hole to hide a raw red diamond his mother had given him. He plastered over it, hanging the painting for concealment. Now the red diamond was gone. He called for Butler Lewis, who took the red diamond from this hole. The butler looked absolutely miserable. "Young master, I know nothing about a red diamond, and I wouldn't dare to ask." This was the second young master's room. "I never entered without his permission. I have no idea about any hidden gems." He pulled out an old smartphone he'd kept for a decade and opened a photo. "Have you seen this red diamond before?" Butler Lewis wanted to say no. But a strange, powerful intuition warned him that this man would know instantly if he was lying. He hesitated for only a few seconds before confessing. "The second young master's favorite necklace has a red diamond pendant that looks exactly like this one." He hurriedly added, "Young master, Arthur is very kind. I'm sure if you ask, he'll gladly return it and beg for your forgiveness." Our hero simply nodded. "I will go to Arthur's room and find him." Butler Lewis panicked, absolutely terrified. He knew this meant tearing Arthur's new room apart. Young master, the second young master went to attend young master Shaw's birthday party. He wore the necklace. "Which Shaw?" he asked. "Young master Sean Shaw, the youngest son of the Shaw conglomerate, the wealthiest family in all of Metro City and close friends of the Vance family. You visited the Shaw estate a few times when you were very little." He thought about it for a moment. That name sounded vaguely familiar. He knew exactly what to do. Find Arthur Vance right now, Butler Lewis gasped. He planned to crash the Shaw family's party all by himself, just for a diamond. "Correct," he nodded. The Shaw family wasn't just the richest in Metro City. They were, without a doubt, the most powerful dynasty in the Eastern Republic. The Shaw conglomerate was an absolute titan. Their wealth and status made the Vance family look like a tiny corner store. Sean Shaw was their beloved golden boy, a massive celebrity. His birthday party was the social event of the year. You couldn't just walk in. Butler Lewis couldn't fathom the chaos a certified madman like him would cause by simply storming the Shaw estate. But he didn't dare stop him. Even with 9 lives, he wouldn't risk one blocking his path. Under pressure, our hero said, "I don't need you anymore. You can leave." Butler Lewis dragged his heavy feet away, debating if he should text Arthur a warning. Less than 5 minutes later, he decided ignorance was bliss. This was a battle between young masters. A mere butler had no place getting involved. An hour later, he was driving one of the Vance family's supercars, speeding down the highway straight toward Metro City. Metro City was the largest metropolis in the country, the very heart of finance and fashion. A massive river separated it from Sugar City. It took him 2 hours to reach Beonia Avenue, right at the base of the mountain where the Shaw estate was. The private road winding up the mountain was already lined with parked luxury cars, making it impossible to drive on. So he parked on the shoulder, walked for 10 minutes, and then hiked a mountain path for another 10 before he reached the grand gates of the Shaw mansion. It was early evening, and the whole estate was brilliantly lit up. Guests in high fashion mingled, the air thick with the smell of expensive perfume and imported floral arrangements. His arrival immediately drew shocked and curious stares from everyone. Not just because he was breathtakingly handsome, but because he wore no makeup, no designer labels, and not a single piece of jewelry. He looked completely out of place at this gala, strolling up like he was browsing a suburban shopping mall. Ignoring the whispers, he walked straight for the entrance. A sharply dressed security host stepped into his path. "Excuse me, sir, may I see your invitation?" "Don't have one, I'm looking for Arthur Vance." The host knew Arthur was Sean's best friend. "May I ask your business with Mr. Vance? He stole something of mine, and I'm here to retrieve it." I apologize, sir, but without an invitation, I cannot grant you entry. You are welcome to sit at the pavilion outside, enjoy some refreshments, and speak to Mr. Vance when he exits. The Shaw family was a true dynasty with impeccable manners. Outside the gates, they had set up dozens of small tables with fine wine and pastries for drivers, reporters, or any uninvited guests. But he was steadfast. I must see Arthur immediately. If you won't let me in, then go fetch him. The host politely shook his head. Mr. Vance is an honored guest. It is highly inappropriate for us to summon him outside. Perhaps you could call him. I don't have his phone number, the host thought to himself. Ah, so this guy isn't close with Mr. Vance. Definitely can't let him in. Then I am very sorry, sir. We cannot grant you access. He didn't try to force his way in. He took a few steps back. He pulled a small battery-powered megaphone out of his pocket, flicked the switch, and aimed it straight at the mansion gates. Arthur Vance, come out here and return my property. Arthur Vance, come out and return my property. The megaphone was small, but the sound was deafening. Everyone at the entrance whipped around, staring at him in total shock. Who in their right mind uses a megaphone at a billionaire's black tie gala? Was this guy completely insane? Several security guards panicked and rushed right over. One tried to cover the speaker with his hand, while another suppressed his fury, saying, "Sir, this is a private residence. Please stop this disturbance right now." From the gates inward is a private residence, our hero corrected him. Where I'm standing is a public mountain road. Paging someone on public property isn't a crime. The guard was just stunned. Excuse me, this entire mountain belongs to the Shaw family. He claims the entire mountain is his, our hero replied. Do you have the property deeds to prove it? The guard's eyes nearly popped out. What is wrong with this guy? He tells him it's private property and he demands to see the deed. The guests all around were just dumbfounded. Such a handsome man, but clearly a few screws loose. What a total shame. Whose patient is this? If you cannot produce the deed, then I don't believe you, he concluded, stepping aside and raising the megaphone again. Arthur Vance, come out here and return my property. The security captain snatched the megaphone, absolutely fuming. If you continue this behavior, we will be forced to physically remove you. He just blinked. Just as he was about to use some physical force of his own, an arrogant, haughty female voice rang out with all the VIP guests there. What is all this shouting about? He turned and saw a woman in a $50,000 gown. The imperious swagger of a battlefield commander, radiating an intimidating authority. Second Miss, the security guards bowed respectfully. This young man wishes to see Mr. Vance but lacks an invitation, so we denied him entry. He used a megaphone, so we were preparing to escort him away. The guests whispered excitedly. That's Sylvia Shaw, the second Miss of the Shaw family. What an incredible aura. No wonder every bachelor in Metro City wants to marry her. Rumor has it she is very close with Arthur Vance. Paparazzi catch them hanging out all the time. Sylvia Shaw looked at Vincent with clear displeasure. What is your relationship with Arthur? How dare you cause a scene at my family's gates and ruin my brother's birthday party? I am Vincent Vance, the biological son of the Vance family, he stated. Arthur is the adopted son of the Vance family. He is just temporarily living in my house. He stole a diamond my mother left for me, so I came to get it back. In just 2 sentences, he dropped a massive social bombshell. The crowd erupted into gasps. Arthur Vance is adopted. I've never heard that. No wonder he doesn't look like his 3 sisters. Just an adopted son, acting like some kind of princely heir. If he's adopted, he is definitely not good enough for Sylvia Shaw, and he stole someone's jewelry. Sylvia's face darkened, her voice dripping with pure disdain. You claim Arthur is adopted. Where is your proof? He entered a mental hospital at age 10. The crowd buzzed even louder. Did I hear that right? A mental hospital. The crowd whispers that he's from an asylum. No wonder he's acting crazy. He claims he's the biological son. Is the man delusional, an adopted thief and a certified lunatic? The Vance family drama is pure entertainment, but he ignores the gossip, focusing only on Sylvia. He declares that 10 years ago, when he was sent to the asylum, his mother wasn't pregnant. Even if she'd gotten pregnant the moment he left, the math simply doesn't add up. That child could never be as old as Arthur is, therefore, biologically, it's impossible. He cannot be her son, and if anyone doubts it, they can check the Vance family registry. Or just demand a DNA test from Arthur. The truth, he says, will be obvious. "You lunatic, stop your nonsense," an enraged figure suddenly bursts out from the mansion. The voice cuts him off. "It's Arthur. I am Arthur Vance," he screams at the crowd. His face is flushed as he yells, "I am the biological son of the Vance family. When I was born, there was a hospital mix-up, and I was taken by another family. They only found me and brought me back at age 10. Stop spreading these vicious lies. Ruining my reputation and my family's honor." But our hero calmly replies, "You are lying." He states it plainly, and lying requires punishment. Arthur's face drains of all color. But then he remembers where he is, Shaw family turf, not Vance territory. His courage returns. He's surrounded by elite guards and all these high society guests right now. If this psycho tries anything, he'll be thrown off the mountain. Arthur puffs out his chest. He shouts, "The entire world knows I'm my parents' biological son. You're just using your words to slander me. Meanwhile, you were the one locked up in an asylum at age 10, which proves you're mentally defective. Who would believe you? Who would believe the words of a complete madman?" But he calmly retorts, "I was institutionalized. At age 10, that's true, but I am not mentally ill," he earnestly corrects him. "I was sent there because I was physically too small to fight the Vance family members. Furthermore, the leading psychiatric specialists in the world have all certified me. They've confirmed that I am not insane." He pulls a folded paper from his pocket. "Here. My official discharge certificate and mental health clearance." The guests begin to whisper. Every crazy person claims they're sane. Hearing the crowd agree with him, Arthur feels bolder. The support makes him cocky, but then he remembers the megaphone incident, humiliation. A deep wave of shame washes over him. "You psycho, what are you even doing here?" Get lost, but our hero just puts the certificate away. "As I said, I'm not crazy. Also, since today is the Shaw heir's birthday, and this is a public space, I will suspend your punishment for lying. We can deal with that later at home. We'll settle things there. For now, hand over the red diamond my mother left me." What mother? Arthur curses internally, but keeps up his shocked and outraged facade. "I don't know anything about a red diamond." Our protagonist points right at his chest. "The diamond pendant on the necklace you're wearing, that is my red diamond." Arthur defensively clutches the pendant, his eyes shifting around nervously. "You're delusional. The Vance family gave this to me. The Vance family sure loves to lie." He just sighs, pulling out his phone and opening a photo. This is a picture from 10 years ago. "Back then," he explains, "I hid this very diamond in a hollow space inside my bedroom wall. You clearly moved into my room, found the hiding spot, and then you stole it." "I didn't steal anything." Arthur shrieks, "You're framing me." He honestly believed that. Our hero wouldn't dare make a move in front of this massive crowd. "You not only lied, but you also committed theft. When we get home, you will be penalized for your crimes. Both infractions." Arthur's eyes burned red with pure rage, desperately wanting to scream to the heavens that Vincent was a psychopath, but he was terrified. If he swore, Vincent would just call it another lie and make his punishment even worse. He turned to Sylvia, grabbing her arm. "Sylvia, save me." She simply patted his hand, then gave Vincent an icy stare. "You claim the diamond is yours. A 10-year-old photo is not enough evidence. Do you have any other proof?" Vincent knew Arthur planned to play dirty to the bitter end. He raised his voice, making sure everyone could hear. "If you hold the diamond to the light and slowly rotate it, you will see a micro-engraving on the side. It reads, 'To my beloved Vincent.' You can hand the diamond to me or to Miss Sylvia to inspect it. Right here, right now, to determine its true owner." Arthur's heart plummeted. It has an engraving. He had never noticed. He had messed up badly. What was he going to do? If they inspected it in front of the crowd and proved he was a thief, his reputation in high society and the entertainment industry would just vanish. So he pulled out his ultimate weapon, bursting into tears while clutching the diamond to his chest, sobbing as if his heart were breaking. This diamond represents my parents' pure love for me. How can I hand it over to be scrutinized just because of the baseless ravings of some madman? That is an insult to my parents' love. Vincent countered, you wear the diamond precisely so others can look at it. The fact you're now crying and refusing an inspection just screams guilty conscience. The truth was, there was no micro-engraving on the diamond, but since Arthur didn't know Vincent was lying, it wasn't technically a lie. Regardless, Arthur was a total coward. He would never take that gamble. The guests started whispering again, throwing suspicious looks at Arthur. Just let him look, it's not like it will disappear. Why is he overreacting so much? Sylvia hesitated for a few seconds. But Arthur quickly cut in, clinging to her arm and sobbing. Sylvia, he's a certified lunatic. We can't let a crazy person dictate what we do. If you want proof the diamond is mine, just call my parents. Why waste time arguing with a psycho? Vincent stopped talking. He just tilted his head back and stared up at the night sky, completely motionless. The crowd grew confused. What is he doing? Did his nose start bleeding? Suddenly, Vincent pointed straight up. What is that? Instinctively, everyone, including Arthur and Sylvia, snapped their heads upward, and moving faster than a striking viper. Vincent lunged forward, grabbing the pendant from Arthur's neck with a sharp, precise yank. The chain snapped, and the diamond fell perfectly into his palm. Arthur gasped, grabbing his suddenly bare neck. My necklace, he shrieked. Vincent, you psycho, you dared to rob me. He wanted to scream, I'll kill you. But let's be real, he didn't have the stats for that. Furthermore, his carefully crafted image was that of a gentle, completely harmless, fragile flower. How could he possibly start a brawl at a high society party? So he went with his classic move. His legs gave out. He collapsed onto the pavement and just bawled his eyes out. My necklace, the one my parents gave me. And because his features were so naturally soft and delicate, crying like this genuinely made him look incredibly pitiful, earning him a wave of sympathy. From the crowd, Sylvia's heart ached for him, so she knelt down and helped him to his feet. Don't cry, it's only a red diamond. I'll get you a bigger and better one tomorrow. But Arthur just sniffled. I don't want a new one. That was a gift from my mother. It was the most precious diamond in the world to me. I only want that one. Of course, he could afford a much bigger diamond. But this specific stone had an exquisite cut that was perfect for him. He just couldn't stand to lose it. But more importantly, seeing Vincent successfully reclaim what was his made his blood boil. There was no way he could let him win. All right, Sylvia promised. I'll get it back for you. She stood up and demanded, Vincent, return the diamond to Arthur immediately. But when she looked around, she saw Vincent was already 20 meters down the road, just casually walking away. He hadn't heard a single word of their little melodrama. He gave her zero face. Furious, Sylvia absolutely screamed, guards. Stop him, don't let him leave until he hands over that diamond. Over a dozen elite security from the Shaw family sprinted forward. Forming a human barricade right in his path, Vincent looked at them, his face dead serious. If you block my path, you will all suffer severe physical trauma, the guards just sneered. Does this psycho really think he's the star of some action movie? Arthur watched it all from behind, his heart soaring with a sick kind of joy. The Shaw family employed the absolute finest private military contractors money could buy. And these men here were just a small fraction of their elite force. There was no way he could fight through this. Vincent didn't say another word. He just casually slipped one hand into his pocket. A brutal fight was about to break out. But right at that moment, a lazy, almost suffocatingly arrogant voice echoed from behind the wall of guards. Get the hell out of my way. The crowd was stunned. Who on earth would dare to act this arrogant, right at the gates of the Shaw estate? Everyone turned toward the voice and gasped. A young woman stood there. She was wearing a pair of oversized aviator sunglasses covering half her face. But her perfect skin, incredible height, those endless legs, and that overwhelming aura, they were impossible to ignore. Not a single A-list actress or high society heir in attendance could even compare to her sheer presence. Sylvia Shaw felt a sudden surge of pure irritation just looking at this woman. "Who are you, and what are you doing at my house?" The woman in the sunglasses didn't even bother to look at Sylvia. She simply raised a long leg and launched a devastating front kick at the guard standing directly in her way. The guard just smirked and easily dodged. But the woman saw it coming. Midair, her leg snapped like a whip, changing its trajectory and slamming a brutal sidekick right into the guard's knee. Crack, the horrifying sound of a bone shattering echoed through the night. The crowd winced together. What a vicious kick! These were highly trained and muscular security professionals. Yet this mysterious woman snapped a man's knee with a single, casual strike. Enraged, the remaining guards roared and charged straight at her. Sylvia screamed, "Take her down." Less than 5 minutes later, over a dozen elite bodyguards were groaning on the ground, completely taken out. The woman in the sunglasses stood over them all, casually adjusting her shades. Not a single hair was out of place. More guards started pouring out from the estate. Sylvia began to panic. "Call the police." Model, the words barely left her mouth. The woman in sunglasses moved like a phantom, materializing beside Sylvia. A cold, hard steel barrel was pressed firmly against Sylvia's forehead. Click, Sylvia broke into a cold sweat, her entire body trembling. "Kneel," the woman ordered. Her voice completely devoid of emotion, and bark like a dog. Sylvia gritted her teeth. "In your dreams, 1, 2, 3, the woman began counting. Sylvia was shaking uncontrollably. Her inner voice screamed, "Don't do anything stupid. Somebody save me." "I don't want to die." She squeezed her eyes shut, letting out a terrified scream. Silence fell over the estate. Sylvia thought, "Am I dead?" She cracked an eye open. The woman was still there, the gun still pressed to her head. Only then did Sylvia realize the click she heard was just the woman mimicking the sound. It hadn't been a real gunshot. "If you don't kneel, the next sound will be real," the woman stated coldly. Through the dark lenses, Sylvia could feel the terrifying killing aura pouring from the woman's eyes. She did not dare call the bluff. If she lost, she wouldn't just lose her life. She would lose her billionaire inheritance and all her glory. "I'll kneel." Sylvia bit her lip so hard it bled, dropping to her knees on the pavement. A smart person knows when to back down. She would find a chance for revenge later. The woman lightly kicked Sylvia's shoulder. Bark, swallowing her immense pride and humiliation, Sylvia squeezed out a quiet woof woof. "That doesn't sound like a dog. Do it again." As Sylvia opened her mouth to obey, the captain of the guard finally found his voice. "Miss, please stay calm. There are many witnesses here. If you fire that weapon, you will not escape. Whatever your demands are, we can negotiate." "Who the hell are you to negotiate with me?" the woman replied. The captain was about to mention the police were already on their way, but the Shaw family's head butler sprinted out from the gates. Gasping for air, he took one look at the scene, and his face drained of color. Tentatively, he whispered a name, "Miss Serena." Serena Shaw kicked Sylvia one last time and holstered her gun. "I despise noise outside my front door. Tell this mob to get lost immediately, or I start shooting." Nobody knew the sheer depths of rage and humiliation burning inside Sylvia Shaw at that moment. But with a gun mere inches from her face, she had no choice but to lower her head. An enraged male voice shrieked from the courtyard, "Tonight is my 20th birthday. I've waited years for this. Nobody is ruining my party." The crowd looked over to see Shaw, dressed in a custom sapphire suit, cowering behind the head butler, pointing a shaking finger at Serena. "You say she's Serena. Where is the proof?" Serena smirked coldly, patting her weapon. "This gun is my proof." She was cold, ruthless, unhinged, and clearly gave zero cares about anyone or anything. Yep, that was Serena Shaw. Sylvia's voice shook. Serena, you just got out of prison. If you kill someone now, you'll face the firing squad. Serena just chuckled. I have severe, medically documented psychiatric disorders. I experience violent psychotic breaks when I'm triggered. You've triggered me. I currently have no legal understanding of my actions. The implication was clear. A certified crazy person can't be executed. For murder, the crowd went still, then whispers erupted. Is she faking it? No one truly insane admits they're insane, right? But others argued no. What if she's actually that crazy? Just look at her. Sylvia couldn't hold back her venom. Why didn't you just die in prison? Then, a click, the sound of a hammer cocking. Sylvia's heart nearly stopped. She scrambled to her feet, screaming at the guests. Leave, everybody leave right now. Get off the Shaw estate. Anyone who stays is an enemy of mine. Sean started to panic. If everyone leaves, what about my birthday party? Sylvia spun around and roared, Sean. Do you want me to die? Is my life worth less than your stupid party? The guests exchanged nervous glances. Nobody wanted to miss this top-tier drama. But then again, Serena Shaw was a one-woman army with a gun, and their beef wasn't with her. Sylvia just poured more fuel on the fire. She killed 3 people when she was 14. Taking out 30 people today would be nothing to her. Do you think she only has one gun? For all anyone knows, she has grenades strapped to her chest. She's looking at all of you. You're packed in here tight. If she starts firing blindly, a stampede will break out. You'll get trampled or a stray bullet could ruin those pretty faces. Aren't you afraid? That did it. The influencers, models, and actors who made a living off their looks immediately grabbed their assistants and bolted for their cars. Once the first group fled, the rest followed like sheep. Within 5 minutes, the grand entrance of the Shaw estate was a complete ghost town, looking at the meticulously planned multi-million-dollar party. Ruined before it began, Sean burst into tears. But he didn't dare make a sound. Ever since childhood, he'd feared Serena like a mouse fears a cobra. He desperately wanted her attention, but was terrified of her cold, razor-sharp cruelty. All he could do was stand there and weep in silence. But even more terrified was Arthur. Taking advantage of the chaos, he noticed Vincent had vanished. He screamed internally. How did that psycho get away? He stole my diamond. If I don't get it back tonight, I'll never see it again. Knowing Vincent's personality, Arthur shuddered to think how he would be tortured when he pictured returning to the Vance estate. The image of Avon tied to the gate, covered in mosquito bites, flashed in his mind. He hid behind a large pillar and pulled out his phone, calling his eldest sister, Jessica Vance. Eldest sister, when are you coming home? I'm at the Shaw estate. Vincent crashed the party. He falsely accused me of stealing his diamond, then actually robbed me. He ruined Sean's birthday. He snapped a quick photo of Sean crying and the empty Shaw gates, sending it to Jessica for dramatic effect. He also said he is going to teach me a brutal lesson when I get home. I'm too scared to go back, sister. You're coming home tomorrow, right? I'll just sleep at the Shaw estate tonight. Just as he hung up, a fleet of police cars swarmed in, sirens blaring. They surrounded Serena, weapons drawn. Arthur and Sean hugged each other behind the pillar, hearts pounding in their throats. Watching an action movie shootout is fun. Being in the crossfire, a total nightmare. Their legs felt like jelly. Serena just smiled, slowly raising her hands. Officers, please don't be tense. It's just a toy. Using only her bare hands, she snapped the gun in half. She tossed the pieces on the ground, then crushed them under her heel. Search me, she declared. I'm not carrying any lethal weapons. She stood there, arms raised, looking like the picture of innocence. An officer patted her down. He shook his head, reporting, she's clean. The other cops finally lowered their guns. They started taking statements as Serena handed over her passport and ID. Taking off her sunglasses, she revealed a face so stunning it was almost unreal. The officers were completely floored, but a quick check confirmed everything. Her features were a dead ringer for Sylvia and Sean's. No doubt about it, she was a Shaw. Just like that, the situation fizzled out. This entire mountain was private Shaw property after all. Serena had been blocked by contractors and simply fought her way home. The injuries weren't serious, and Serena agreed to cover all medical bills. The security firm, terrified of losing the billionaire Shaw family as clients, quickly decided not to press any charges. As for Serena and Sylvia's fight, the police wrote it off as a family spat and refused to get involved. They gave a stern warning, which Serena politely accepted with a nod. Promising to behave, she watched as the police drove away. The estate fell silent once more. Serena let out a huge, fake yawn. She strolled past her stunned family, heading for the front door. "I'm exhausted. I need some rest, don't disturb me." Sylvia watched her go, pure rage in her eyes. 10 years ago, Serena's brilliance had made Sylvia feel like a shadow. Now, 10 years later, on the very first day she's back, Serena had utterly humiliated her in front of the entire city's elite. Sylvia found herself wishing Serena had just died on that deserted island. If Serena never returned, the entire Shaw empire would have been hers. She wouldn't have even minded the arranged marriage to the psycho Vance heir. That psycho was ridiculously handsome, far better looking than Arthur. A bitter pang of jealousy hit Sylvia. Why did Serena get engaged to him? To a man so powerful and untouchable, as she was fuming. A maid came sprinting out, face pale with panic. "Second miss. The eldest miss just kicked down your bedroom door. She threw everything out." "All of your belongings are on the lawn," Sylvia shrieked. "What?" Her hair practically stood on end. "That freak, that psycho. She dares take my room, I'll kill her." Sylvia stormed into the mansion. Watching from the shadows, Arthur let out a dark, satisfied chuckle. Well, this whole scene seemed awfully familiar, didn't it? Seeing Sylvia lose her mind actually made him feel a little better. Meanwhile, back at the Vance estate, bang, 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 "You psycho. Open this door and give me my diamond back, or I'll kill you." Seeing the Shaw family at war, Arthur had decided to sneak back home. The moment he got there, he started pounding on Serena's bedroom door. She finally opened it with a lazy look on her face. "What is it?" Arthur grabbed her by the collar, screaming, "Give me my diamond back." She just looked at him, completely serious. "That isn't your diamond. Why do you keep lying? If no one else will teach you, then I guess I have to." He made it clear that diamond was his, daring the thief to do something. But he wasn't in a rush to get physical. He simply asked, "Where is the painting that covered the hole where that diamond was hidden?" Arthur thought for a moment, then sneered with pure arrogance, "That piece of trash. I burned it." At those words, his normally blank face, already pale, lost all color. It turned into a cold, monochrome mask. The air itself seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Where did you burn it?" Arthur just smirked, victorious. "Right here." He took it down and immediately set the whole thing on fire. Smack, smack, before he could even process the movement. A vicious backhand slammed into his left cheek, sending him spinning a full 2.5 times to the right. The pain felt like hot needles digging into his skin. Before he could even find his balance, a forehand slap cracked his right cheek, spinning him back 2.5 times the other way. "Punishment number 1, he stated, his voice like ice. "You lied, claiming my diamond was yours." Arthur gasped in agony, tears streaming down his face. He wanted to scream, but his cheeks throbbed so violently that crying felt like rubbing salt into the wound. He caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. His face was already swelling up like a bruised, red pig's head, but he was confused. Why was the punishment only for the lie? Why wasn't he punished for burning the painting? Was he letting that slide? While Arthur was lost in his thoughts, the man pressed a finger to his shoulder, shoved him aside, and strode confidently down the hall toward the guest room. "Psycho, where are you going?" Arthur mumbled through swollen lips. He reached the guest room, kicking the door wide open with a huge crash and stepping inside. Arthur, clutching his throbbing face, stumbled in right behind him. He watched in absolute horror as the man threw open the closet doors. Grabbing armfuls of expensive designer clothes and hurling them onto the floor. "What are you doing?" he shrieked. "You burned something precious to me," was the ice-cold reply. "So I am burning something precious to you." Arthur's face drained of all color. He watched, totally helpless, as his clothes were tossed out. Then his limited edition bags, his rare sneakers, and his expensive jewelry into a massive pile. It sat right in the center of the room. He tried to curse, but his swollen mouth just wouldn't work. He wanted to stop him, but he didn't have the courage. All he could do was stand there, frozen, tears filling his eyes, while the servants all gathered at the door to watch the chaos unfold. The servants looked at him with profound pity, but not a single one of them dared to step in. Once the pile of Arthur's things looked like a small mountain. He pulled out a customized Zippo lighter from his pocket, sparked a flame, and casually tossed it onto the pile. The expensive, flammable fabrics caught fire in an instant. A roaring inferno erupted, its light reflecting in the terrified eyes of everyone watching. "He's not just burning clothes and bags," the servants thought in horror. "He's burning literal stacks of cash, a fortune." They wanted to drop to their knees and beg him to stop. To tell him this trash wasn't worth dirtying his hands. Every single item in that fire cost more than their monthly salary. The limited edition bags alone were probably worth a small house. But he just stood with his hands behind his back, observing the inferno. In the flickering firelight, the servants swore they could see actual demons. A dark aura like black wings began unfurling behind him. Butler Lewis frantically ordered staff to grab fire extinguishers, ready to deploy them to ensure the fire wouldn't spread. The mansion's premium, imported hardwood floors could not be allowed to burn. Arthur dropped to his knees, completely broken and crying a heart-wrenching wail. "These are my treasures, the gifts Dad, Mom, and my sisters gave me. Why did you burn all of my treasures?" In his head, Arthur began a silent countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just as he hit 1, heavy footsteps echoed from the stairs, stopping right behind him. A cold, commanding voice sliced through the tension. "What is going on here? Why is everyone crowded around this room?" The servants turned around and rejoiced. Arthur's eyes lit up with a spark of malicious hope. The CEO of the Vance conglomerate, the household's absolute authority. Eldest sister Jessica Vance had finally returned. Jessica pushed past the servants, stopping at the doorway of the guest room. Arthur, still on the floor, looked up at her with a tear-streaked, bruised face. Eldest sister Jessica frowned deeply. "Arthur, tell me what happened." "Who did that to your face?" Arthur pointed a trembling finger at Vincent, slurring his words. He said I stole his diamond, then he burned my painting. He burned all my stuff, and then he beat me up." Jessica understood immediately. She gently patted Arthur's head. "I understand. I will get justice for you." She turned to the butler. "Butler Lewis, call the family doctor immediately. Get some ointment for Arthur's face." Then she slowly rose to her full height. Her eyes, sharp as freshly honed blades, radiated a terrifying corporate killer aura. When her gaze locked onto Vincent, she paused for a microsecond. 10 years ago, this kid was a feral little leopard, biting anyone who got close. Now he stood there so calmly, not looking insane at all. But she knew the calm ones were always the most dangerous. Ivan, Isabella, and Arthur had all become his victims. She couldn't let that handsome, tranquil face fool her. Regaining her composure, she demanded, "Vincent, is what Arthur said true?" He replied with a casual yes. Jessica's frown only deepened. "Do you feel absolutely no remorse for treating Arthur this way?" He just shook his head. "No." Her face darkened instantly. "I heard you made Grandma faint and even tied Ivan to the gate. And forced Isabella to change her surname. Is that true? I don't know." The lie was flawless, his expression completely unbothered. Jessica inhaled deeply, then slowly let it out. Apologize to Arthur right now. Move out of that room and give him back his things. Do this, and I'll drop the matter. I promise, she added, to treat you both equally. No more favoritism. His answer came without a second's thought. No, I refuse. A cold chuckle escaped her. It was a humorless sound. Vincent, I heard you're a decent fighter. The house guards couldn't stop him, nor could Isabella's mercenaries, but she came prepared. Taking a few steps back, she revealed her trump card. My driver is ex-special forces. 10 years of active duty, a counterterrorism specialist, and a military boxing champion. He was a long-distance runner, a top marksman, her ultimate solution. Let's see if you can beat him. A lean man stepped into the doorway, radiating coiled energy. His eyes were sharp, calculating, predatory. He was clearly a seasoned killer. With zero body fat, surrounded by the haze of burning clothes. Jessica issued her final ultimatum. Will you admit your mistakes? No, he replied flatly. Good, you have a spine, Jessica smirked, but don't cry when you're caught. If you lose, you're going straight back to Greenwood Asylum for round 2. But he stared right back at her. If you fail to capture me, I will send you to the mental hospital. The servants gasped, sucking in a collective breath. All their years working for the Vance family, and this was a first. They had never heard anyone speak to the eldest Miss Vance like that. She was the CEO of a conglomerate, the wealthiest titan in Sugar City. A domineering boss whose word was law. Anyone who dared challenge her ended up utterly destroyed. How arrogant was this guy to make such a threat? Jessica barked the order. Wolf, take him down. She gave Wolf a subtle look. The signal was clear. Hold back. Don't actually hurt the kid. Just subdue him, Wolf understood. He cracked his knuckles, stepping forward. His stance was casual, almost mocking. Our hero didn't react. He simply reached a hand into his pocket. Careful, Arthur, someone shouted, remembering his trauma. Despite the pain in his jaw, he warned them. He has a little hammer in his pocket. The moment the words were spoken, a small hammer flew through the air. Like a silver bullet, Wolf's combat instincts flared and he easily dodged it. But he never anticipated the other hand had already drawn a second weapon. A 16-inch steel baton, thick as a thumb, topped with a heavy sphere. A steel ball the size of an egg, covered in vicious metal spikes. He thrust the spiked mace forward, burying it directly into Wolf's right forearm. It was too fast, the crowd couldn't track it. To them, it looked like Wolf had lunged forward and impaled his own arm on the weapon. Given his sheer speed, the spikes sank deep into the muscle. The agony was unreal. As Wolf doubled over, clutching his bleeding arm and stumbling backward, the young man closed the distance instantly and delivered a brutal kick. Crack, the kneecap fractured loudly. Wolf groaned, collapsing to the floor. He smoothly retracted the mace and rained down a flurry of calculated strikes. Blow after blow landed on Wolf's remaining good arm. He didn't stop. Not until his left arm was battered, bloodied, and completely immobilized. One knee shattered, both arms neutralized. Not even a hardened veteran could fight back from this. He held the bloody mace loosely at his side. His eyes locked onto Jessica Vance. Her face was a mask of absolute horror. Are you still planning to capture me? He asked coldly. Jessica was paralyzed. She'd assumed Wolf would spar with him for at least 20 rounds. She thought he would be effortlessly pinned down. She never imagined this. Wolf brutally dismantled before he could even start. Wolf coughed, forcing a smile. I apologize, Miss Vance. He's too fast. I severely underestimated him. Wolf had lost spectacularly. The kid was faster, more ruthless, and struck with lethal intent. From the very first moment, Wolf had looked down on him. He held back, thinking he was just dealing with some temperamental teenager. That arrogance cost him everything. Though Wolf didn't say it out loud, Jessica finally realized the truth. Years of serving as a peaceful chauffeur, the corporate world had completely dulled Wolf's killer instincts. Even going all out from the very start, he never stood a chance against this absolute monster. Jessica clenched her fists, a fierce battle raging inside her own mind. She trained every single day. She knew Krav Maga, judo, and even combat shooting. But he had already clasped his hands behind his back, stepping casually over the burning remains of Arthur's clothes and walking right toward her. The firelight cast flickering shadows across his flawless, unnervingly pale skin. His expression was perfectly blank. No happiness, no sadness, like a marble statue brought to life. But to everyone in that hall, he was a demon from the depths of hell. Jessica shot a look at Arthur, her eyes screaming a silent apology. "I'm so sorry, Arthur." His tear-filled eyes shot back a desperate, pleading look. "Don't leave me here to die. Fight him," Arthur thought, his mind racing. He had no real blood ties to this family. If he stayed, this psycho might actually kill him. "Are you really going to abandon me?" Butler Lewis whispered urgently, "Eldest miss. You need to fall back, the eldest young master. His mind is different. He always keeps his promises. If he said he'll capture you, he's not messing around. Get out of here. Gather a bigger security team and then come back. It's not too late." Jessica's logical CEO brain agreed. Retreat was the only sound, tactical decision. Live to fight another day, she looked at Arthur. "Arthur, hang on. I'm going to get reinforcements. I will be back tonight to save you." She turned and power-walked toward the grand staircase. The servants instantly formed a human wall across the hall, trying desperately to buy their boss time to escape. And then, he pulled a heavy object from his pocket, hurling it straight at Jessica's retreating back. Thud, Jessica collapsed onto the carpet like a puppet whose strings were just cut. The entire crowd gasped in absolute terror. The eldest miss had been hit square in the back of the head by a solid iron ball, the size of a tennis ball. Thank God he hadn't thrown it from further away, or her skull would have been completely crushed. The eldest young master's pockets were like a video game inventory of medieval weapons. No wonder the guy always wore those baggy cargo pants. As panic finally erupted, he smoothly bypassed the wall of terrified servants, walked up to the unconscious Jessica, and planted his foot firmly on the back of her neck. He pulled out a beat-up old smartphone and dialed. "Director, yes, it's me. My sister is showing signs of extreme mental instability. She's going to need immediate treatment. Send a transport van to the Vance estate now. I've already subdued her. We'll start with a 1-month involuntary hold. If she shows no improvement, just extend it. Email me my health clearance report. Also, I will personally be prescribing her medication. I guarantee a full recovery. Click." He hung up and pocketed the phone. He looked up. The entire household was just staring at him with looks of pure apocalyptic horror. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" he asked with genuine confusion. The servants covered their mouths, shaking their heads frantically, paralyzed by terror. Even Arthur clamped his swollen lips shut, too scared to even breathe. That was Greenwood Asylum. He just told its director that whoever he sends in, stays in. And he was sending in the CEO of the Vance conglomerate, the single wealthiest and most powerful woman in all of Sugar City. This was pure, undiluted madness. Seeing no one answer, Vincent didn't press the issue. He just pulled out heavy-duty zip ties from his pocket.